Hello, let's start with chapter number 8, how do organisms reproduce? In this video, I'll be discussing about reproduction in general. Along with that, we'll be discussing mainly about asexual reproduction in living organisms. How asexually reproducing living organisms are reproducing their young ones. And we'll also look for examples of asexually reproducing living organisms. Let's begin by discussing about reproduction in general. How would you describe reproduction? What exactly is reproduction? Whenever you are trying to describe or explain or discuss about term, you should try to split the term into prefix, root word or main word and suffix. So prefix here in the reproduction is re. Re here means reoccurring or occurring again and again. Re simply refers to repetition. Produce here is the main word. Produce refers to item, or it means resultant item or resultant individual. Produce simply means product or resultant, and any term ending with ion is a process. So the suffix here is ion, so that means reproduction is a process. What kind of process is it? A biological process, right? Reproduction is occurring in living organisms, and reproduction being a process, if it's occurring in living organism, it is a life process. So reproduction is one of life process. Whenever because of the reproduction, we can say that living organisms are living compared to non-living organisms. Now we are discussing too much about reproduction, right? Now I'll explain reproduction in sentence like this. Reproduction is a biological process in which an organism gives rise to young ones. Young ones here refers to babies or offsprings or daughters or sons, or it also refers to filial. So we have different languages we use for offsprings. So whatever the young ones produced are looking quite similar to the parent. So to make it more simple, I would say reproduction is a biological process in which, say in case of elephant, a parent elephant mother give rise to or give birth to baby elephant or young elephant, and the elephant which is produced by mother of the elephant, mother of the young elephant, the young elephant which is reproduced by mother elephant looks very much similar to the elephant mother. Same in case of this butterfly. The butterflies are looking quite similar because of butterfly give birth to butterflies. Elephant give birth to elephant baby. We humans usually give birth to human, right? There is no production of baby human from elephant. So reproduction is production of young ones by an organism, and the young ones which are produced by the parents are looking similar to among each other. Hope you have understood the term reproduction. Now, how does an organism giving rise to offspring similar to itself? As you can see in this picture, baby elephant is looking very similar to the parent element. Why it is resembling so? Why baby elephant is looking very similar to the mother elephant? Mainly because of gene or DNA. Gene is a segment of DNA. So gene of parent elephant is being transferred or passed or is received by baby elephant. That's why baby elephant is looking very much similar to the parent elephant, mainly because of DNA or gene, right? Gene is a segment of DNA. So I would explain or answer the question as follow. So reproduction is usually involving copying of DNA. So parental DNA copy is being passed to the offspring, right? How it is occurring? Along with DNA, some portion or some parts of cell is also being passed down to the offspring. So how it is occurring? Mainly during the formation of gametes. Whenever there is formation of male gamete, say sperm, there is passing of father's gene or DNA to the sperm, and sperm will meet with the ovum. Ovum is also having gene or DNA of mother. So in a way, gametes, sperm and egg is receiving DNA or gene of the parents, and on meeting sperm or on fusing sperm and egg, there is formation or there is fertilization undergoing, which leads to formation of zygote. So zygote is the single cell from which baby elephant is produced. Similarly, in case of human also, same, right? So there is copying of DNA involved whenever reproduction is occurring. Hence, we are looking similar. And along with that, how it is yes, so to answer this, we also have to make the answer proper by explaining whatever I have explained. So passing of DNA is usually done from generation to generation. So that's why we humans are looking very similar to among each other, right? Not exactly exact copy of each other, still then we are looking similar, right? So why offsprings are looking similar to the parents? Mainly because of reproduction is involving copying of DNA. Along with that, some parts of the cell are also copied, right? For formation of gametes, we have gametes are formed by copying some part of parental cell and gene or DNA, and involves passing of copied DNA in the form of chromosomes from generation to generation. DNA, chromosomes, gene, all these are quite similar, mainly because of genetic makeup or gene is present. Otherwise, in case of chromosome is having proteins, extra proteins. DNA is a nucleic acid having biomolecule called nucleic acid, right? Deoxyribonucleic acid. So without explaining a lot, let's move to the next question. What are the importance of reproduction? Is it important for us? Is it why it is important? Mainly because of for continuation of the species on Earth. We humans had been surviving on this planet Earth mainly because of we are reproducing fertile offspring. We are reproducing an offspring which can reproduce young one. That's why there is survival of human on planet Earth. So for continuation of species, reproduction is important. And sexually reproducing organisms bring variation. Variation is important for evolution. You might have heard about evolution of human, origin of human. We humans were said to have evolved from apes. That's why we monkeys, chimpanzee, gorilla are looking quite similar to apes. And we among ourselves also we are looking similar, mainly because of evolution. We have evolved from we were evolved from apes. So sexually reproducing living organisms brings dissimilarities among the offsprings, which in a way leads to evolution. So for continuation of species on Earth, reproduction is important. And for sexually reproducing living organisms, it's important to reproduce sexually so that evolution occurs and so that there is better chance for survival of the sexually reproducing living organism. Now, what are the different modes of reproduction? We have asexual mode of reproduction as well as sexual mode of reproduction. Sexual mode of reproduction is involving two different sexes, and in case of asexual reproduction, the term a is referring to single. So single parent or single sex is involved in reproduction in case of asexual reproduction. Now let's discuss about the differences or comparison of asexual reproduction and sexual mode of reproduction. First, let's discuss about asexual mode of reproduction. Asexual mode of reproduction, as we had discussed, it is involving a single parent, and single parent reproduce similar offsprings. Offsprings which are produced are very much similar. Amoeba leads to formation of amoebae or daughter cells of amoeba. Daughter cells of amoeba are looking similar among themselves and to the parent amoeba, right? So single parent is involved. Along with that, there is reproduction of similar looking offsprings. In case of asexual reproduction, if there is involvement of single parent, then there is no production of gametes. If there is no production of gametes, then there is no fertilization occurring. So fertilization doesn't occur. We know that fertilization is a process of fusion or coming together of male gamete and female gamete. Asexual reproduction is very common among simple living organisms which are made up of single cell, and plants and animals which are having simple body organization are also undergoing asexual reproduction. Usually plants, though they are more complex, plants usually undergo asexual reproduction. Examples that we can give are budding in yeast and hydra, binary fission in amoeba, and so on. Now let's discuss about sexual reproduction. On the basis of asexual reproduction, first point of asexual reproduction, we can say that there is involvement of two parents and offspring produced are dissimilar. So offsprings which are produced by sexual reproduction varies among each other and to the parents because of there is mixing of DNA. Parent copying of DNA of mother and father occurs, which leads to formation of zygote, which is having different DNA. That's why gene present in offspring is different from parents. So we humans are looking similar, but if we look at detail, then we are able to recognize some dissimilarities, right? Now, fertilization do occur because of there is production of male and female gametes. Sexual reproduction is common among higher plants and animals. Examples that we can give is elephants, cattle, human, hibiscus, etc. Now, what are the different modes of asexual reproduction? We have fission, you have studied about budding, we have spore formation, fragmentation, regeneration, vegetative propagation. Fission can be of binary fission, multiple fission. Vegetative propagation is being practiced artificially as well as it is occurring naturally. So natural mode of vegetative reproduction can be by leaves, by stems, or by roots. Artificial means of vegetative propagation can be by cutting, by layering and grafting, and we also follow tissue culture method. So artificial hybridization is also done, right? So these are the topics that we'll discuss, subtopics that we are going to discuss in the following slides. So you have to remember these different modes of asexual reproduction in living organisms. We do have many more, so these are the main topics. So let's proceed further without discussing in detail. So first type of asexual reproduction is fission. So what is fission? literally fission means splitting or division. So fission is mainly a mode of asexual reproduction in which parent cell is dividing into two daughter cells, right? Or parent cell is forming many daughter cells. So fission can be mainly asexual mode of fission as a reproduction involve division of parent cell. Division of parent cell can be a binary fission or multiple fission. In binary fission, bi here refers to two. There is formation of two daughter cells from a single parent body or cell. From a single cell, there is formation of two daughter cells, and that is called as binary fission. If the single parent body is dividing into many of cells, then it's called as multiple fission. Now let's discuss in detail. But binary fission is, as we had discussed, a parent cell will be dividing into two equal halves, and being a simple asexual mode of reproduction, both the daughter cells are looking very much similar to each other. It occurs in case of amoeba. Amoeba follows binary fission. Fission occurs in amoeba in any plane, plane of the cell. There is no definite plane or amoeba divide at any axis or plane of the amoeba. So that microscopic image here shown is amoeba engulfing a food particle with the help of pseudopodia. Now this is amoeba having nucleus. Very simple, right? Amoeba is having cell membrane, cytoplasm, nucleus, and other cell organelles. Now amoeba on maturation, it will become parent, and parent amoeba will undergo karyokinesis. Karyokinesis here refers to division of nucleus. Karyo refers to nucleus, kinesis refers to division. So division of nucleus occurs first. After division of nucleus, then there is division of cell occurs. Cyto refers to cell, kinesis refers to division. So division of cell occurs after karyokinesis. As the cell started dividing, then there is formation of two daughter cells or there is formation of two amoebae from a parent amoeba. Cytokinesis occurs by formation of depression or constriction or groove or furrow at the center of the body cell of amoeba, and this division occurs at any plane, in horizontal direction as well as in vertical direction as well as horizontal direction, or it can occur diagonally. So there is no definite rule for amoeba to divide its body. It can divide at any plane. Now on the other hand, we have leishmania, which is dividing also by binary fission. In case of leishmania, the structure or a cell of leishmania is not having regular proper shape. It is having flagella, a whip-like structure at one end. So it usually divides by binary fission in definite orientation. Definite orientation in the sense it usually follows a particular type of division wherein there is dividing of cell occurs at particular plane. If it is dividing horizontally, then it will be dividing horizontally. If it is dividing in longitudinal manner, then it will divide in longitudinal fashion. So this is leishmania, a diagrammatic representation of leishmania. As you can see here, a hair-like structure, and the hair-like structure is the whip like structure that I was explaining. So hair-like structure or whip-like structure is the flagella. Now in order to divide leishmania has to become parent. It will mature, and after maturation there is formation of extra tiny flagella. Along with that, there is division of nucleus occurs. After dividing nucleus, then there is division of cell occurring. So the division of cell is occurring in longitudinal manner, right? in this case. So division of cell started by formation of groove or depression or furrow, and it keeps on deepening. The furrow keeps on uh, uh, dip, uh, dividing, and then finally there is formation of two daughter cells of Leishmania. Leishmania usually causes Kala Azar. So this is all about binary fission. Now what is multiple fission? In multiple fission, a single parental cell will be dividing into many daughter cells simultaneously. Now this occurs in case of Plasmodium. Plasmodium is an infectious agent which is infectious microorganism or protozoan which causes malaria. So the diagrammatic representation of Plasmodium is represented here. It is having cell membrane, cytoplasm nucleus, and it is protected by a covering called cyst. Now, as the parent cell undergoes karyokinesis and cytokinesis, there is formation of many cells inside the cyst, and those daughter cells will come out and release many daughter cells. So formation of many daughter cells from a single cell in case of Plasmodium is multiple fission, a single cell forming multiple daughter cells. So this is how multiple fission occurs in Plasmodium. Now, how budding occurs in yeast? So this is a parent yeast. Parent yeast, on maturation, it forms tiny bud or tiny protrusion or tiny projection or tiny bulging portion from its cell. So this is a cell, and there is a division of nucleus occurs. So karyokinesis occurs wherein a portion of nucleus is also passed into the bud of the yeast cell, and the bud keeps on developing, and there is formation of many buds, and then in order to form daughter cells of yeast, buds have to detach, buds have to undergo detachment, buds have to undergo separation. So there is separation of the buds, and those separated buds will be forming daughter cells. As you can see in this microscopic image, there is formation of tiny buds, and then there is development of many yeast cells. So this is how budding occurs in yeast. I've also explained here in this statement, budding in yeast is an asexual mode of reproduction in which outgrowth from the cell of yeast, that is bud, detaches, and finally there is formation of new independent yeast cells. Similarly, budding occurs in Hydra. Hydra, as you can see in this microscopic image, they are having tentacles, they are having finger-like structures or protrusions coming out from the one end where there is a tiny opening present. So tiny opening is for ingestion or excretion of substances. So it is having tentacles. Now Hydra, on maturation, there is formation of tiny bud on the parent Hydra, and that bud keeps on developing and form a Hydra, tiny Hydra-like structure, and then in order to form new Hydra, the tiny Hydra formed on the parent from the bud has to detach or separate, and then there is formation of daughter Hydra or a new Hydra. So this is how budding occurs in Hydra. To explain it, you can discuss like this. Budding in Hydra is an asexual mode of reproduction in which outgrowth, that is bud, from the body of parent Hydra detaches out and form new independent hydrae. Hydrae here refers to plural. You can also write hydras. Now What is spore formation? What example can you give? Spore formation usually occurs in case of algae and fungi. So over here I've given Rhizopus as an example. Rhizopus is a fungi, or it's a bread mold, usually started growing whenever we keep a bread for few days. So in spore formation there is production of spores. In case of Rhizopus bread mold, spores are produced by sporangium. Sporangium is fruiting body, and fruiting body called sporangium, which is growing on sporangiophore, will be producing spores, and these spores, whenever they come across favorable condition, they germinate and form tiny hyphae. Tiny hyphae here refers to tiny hair-like structure, which will lead to formation of new fungal body. So spore formation usually occurs in Rhizopus. To explain it, I've written the entire explanation what I've already discussed. So spore formation is a form of asexual reproduction by which new organisms are formed from spores, which are which are usually produced, I should write ed, in sporangia. Sporangia is plural form of sporangium. So spore formation is usually occurring in case of Rhizopus, and spores of Rhizopus will be germinating under favorable condition in order to produce new Rhizopus, new fungal body. Now, how would you explain fragmentation as asexual mode of reproduction? What example can you give? You have studied in your lower classes, right? You may be remembering Spirogyra, which is reproducing by fragmentation mode of asexual reproduction. In case of Spirogyra, we have chloroplasts. That's why they are able to synthesize their own food. So Spirogyra usually, when it become mature, then its body, it will undergo fragmentation. Fragmentation here refers to breaking or dividing of its body part. So cells of Spirogyra break apart, and there is formation of fragments or segment or tiny portion of Spirogyra, and those tiny portion or fragment or segment of Spirogyra will undergo maturation and development and form new Spirogyra. And this is how fragmentation as a sexual mode of reproduction occurs in Spirogyra. To explain it, I've written the entire explanation I've given. So fragmentation is a type of asexual reproduction in which a mature organism, that is Spirogyra, divide apart to individual pieces. So individual fragments are formed, and these small pieces will grow to form new organism. For example, we have Spirogyra, which undergoes fragmentation to produce new young Spirogyra. Now, what is regeneration? In which organism regeneration as a sexual mode of reproduction occurs? What do you call for this living organism? It's planaria, right? Regeneration usually occurs in planaria, starfish, and so on. So in regeneration, whenever we cut the planaria into pieces, from those pieces there is a development of new planaria occurs. New planarias are formed from the cut pieces, and later on there is development of planaria, entire planaria. So in case of planaria, when we cut planaria into 3 pieces, then from those 3 pieces, whether it be head or the stem or the trunk or the tail, from all these portions or cut pieces of body part, there is development of new planaria. This is what I have explained. So regeneration is the ability to form new organism from the cut or divided body parts. For example, regeneration in case of planaria, because of ability of forming new organism from a cut portion. Scientists were amazed by such characteristic, and scientists are working on regenerative medicine on the basis of regenerative ability of planaria-like living organisms, so that in future scientists could produce different organs in a system by regenerative method. Now, how asexual mode of reproduction occurs in plants? How plants reproduce asexually? Asexual mode of reproduction in plants is technically called as vegetative reproduction or vegetative propagation. So vegetative reproduction or vegetative propagation here means asexual reproduction in plants. So how it occurs? Usually in case of plants, we have flowers as reproductive organ, and in flower we have male reproductive part and female reproductive part, which help in fertilization after pollination, and then there is formation of zygote, and later on seeds are formed, and seeds will be used for reproduction in flowering plants. Now, what is asexual mode of reproduction? In case of asexual or vegetative propagation or vegetative reproduction, plants uses different body parts like stem, roots, and leaves. So if there is reproduction from the vegetative portion, say even in case of flowering plants, if flowers are not used, and if the vegetative body parts, say in case of leaves, plants we have leaves, stem, and roots as non-reproductive part. If there is reproduction of new plants from roots, from stem and leaves, then this kind of reproduction is called as vegetative reproduction or vegetative propagation. So asexual mode of reproduction in plants occurs naturally from the leaves, from the stem part, from the root part. What are the benefits of vegetative propagation? Is it advantageous for the farmers or horticulturists? Yes, it's very advantageous for the gardeners, farmers, and those who are interested in planting new plants. So some of the benefits are usually plants which are reproduced by vegetative propagation bear flowers, fruits earlier than which are being produced, flowers and fruits and seeds which are produced after the formation of seeds. Seeds takes time for germination, and it takes time for developing and growing into a new plant. But in case of vegetative propagation, it can easily, within a short duration of time, there is formation of new plant from the stem, root, and leaves. And these newly produced plants will be forming flower, fruits, and seeds within a short duration of time compared to the new growth of plant from seeds. Seeds require favorable condition to germinate, and it takes time for growing, right? So in order to grow banana, orange, rose, jasmine, and plants that have lost ability to produce seeds, we can use vegetative propagation. So genetically, whatever the new plants which are produced after undergoing vegetative propagation are genetically similar, because the new plants are produced from the parent plant, and there is no fusion fertilization occurring. We are using stem, leaves, and roots for reproduction, so which are very much similar. So new plants which are produced by vegetative propagation are similar to the parent plant. For growing seedless fruits, we use vegetative propagation, and it is cheaper and easier for growing new plants by vegetative propagation or asexual mode of reproduction reproduction method, mainly because of there is a high chance of reproduction of new plants from the leaf, stem and roots. So it's cheaper, very economical and easy method of growing new plants. So these are the some benefits of or advantages of growing new plants by vegetative propagation. Now, what are the different methods of vegetative propagation? As you can see here, we have uh, artificial and natural. Now, what are the artificial methods of vegetative propagation? We have cutting, grafting, layering, right? So, what are the natural methods of vegetative propagation? We can grow naturally dahlia. Dahlias are a beautiful flower, which usually grow by using vegetative advantageous or vegetative roots. So dahlia plant can be grown from roots, and their roots are usually bulbous or tuberous. So naturally we can grow dahlia from its root. So this kind of natural vegetative propagation or production of new dahlia plant is through root or by root is called as root based natural vegetative propagation. Sorry. Now some plants can also grow from leaves, parts of leaves. In case of Bryophyllum, as you can see here, this is a diagram of Bryophyllum leaf. At the edges of the leaf, at the corners of the leaves, sides of the leaf, margin of the leaf, there is formation of tiny leaf-like structure, and these are called as leaf buds. As you can see here in this image, leaf buds are growing on the leaves or edges or margin of the leaves of Bryophyllum, and these tiny leaf buds will develop into a new plant after detaching it from the Bryophyllum leaf. And this is growing of new Bryophyllum from the leaves of itself, right? So some plants, say like potato, ginger, usually grow from stem or the tuber part of the potato and rhizome part of the ginger. In tuber part of the potato or stem of the potato is what we eat. It is rich in starch, right? So potatoes usually bear tiny eye-like structure, and these are called as eyes, and from those tiny eye there is production of tiny buds, and buds will be developing into new potato plant, and there is production of many more tubers of potato. Likewise, the image that you are seeing is of ginger rhizome. This is the rhizome of ginger, and ginger is having tiny scale-like structure. They are tiny lines, and these tiny lines are called as internodes. Nodes, and in between those two lines there is internode. So these tiny lines will be helping in production of tiny buds, and those tiny buds will be developing into new plant. So these three methods of natural vegetative propagation are usually followed by different plants. We have some plants are using root, some plants are using leaves, and some plants are using stem for natural vegetative propagation. Now let's discuss about the artificial methods of vegetative propagation. We have already discussed about the natural methods of vegetative propagation by roots, leaves and stem. Now what are the artificial methods that we can follow in order to vegetatively reproduce new plants? So the first method is cutting propagation. Cutting propagation involves cutting off branches or stem of the plants. Say in case of rose and bougainvillea, we usually cut branches or stem, and we used to plant the cut portion in soil, and later on there is growth of new rose plant or bougainvillea. So cutting propagation involves rooting or planting of the cut portion in the soil. Now, what is grafting? Grafting here refers to joining together vegetatively. So we are joining together two parts of plant vegetatively. A graft is usually joined to another parent plant. So the part of plant which have to be grafted on the parent plant is known as scion, and the parent plant to which graft is being received is known as stalk. So it is usually used in case of mango plant. Grafting is joining of two parts of plant vegetatively. All these are done by artificial. Humans used to reproduce, or humans are involved in cutting, grafting and layering. Now what is layering? Layering also occurs naturally, right? So in layering, aerial part or shoot part of the plants are covered under soil, and from those under soil portion of the aerial parts there is production of roots and new plants, and that usually occurs in jasmine. We usually reproduce jasmine by layering. So as explained here, layering involves covering of aerial part of shoot part of the plant in the soil and allowing it to grow roots, and from those under soil aerial parts there is portion of there is reproduction of new plants, and these new plants will separate among each other and form new plant, right? And we also have modern technique or modern artificial method of vegetative propagation, which is called as tissue culture. Tissue or part of plant, which is known as explant. We usually collect part of plant and in aseptic condition. Aseptic here refers to in contamination free condition, in dirt free condition, or in a place where there is no microorganism, no pathogenic substances or no pathogenic organism. We usually carry tissue culture. So a part of plant is usually grown in nutrient medium, a synthetic nutrient medium, a nutrient medium which is artificially acquired, is prepared, and in which a tiny portion of plant is placed under aseptic condition, in a sterile condition, in a contamination free environment. There is production of new plants, which is usually done for ornamental plants and orchids. So these are artificial methods of vegetative propagation of plants. Now you have to answer all these questions, though whatever I've discussed are not in your syllabus, but these are important for you to understand what exactly reproduction is. So your first question is, you need to explain budding with the help of an example. Second, you need to enlist some benefits of vegetative propagation. Third, question requires you to explain asexual reproduction in plants. And fourth, you have to write down comparative accounts on asexual mode of reproduction and sexual mode of reproduction. And fifth question asks you to discuss the different modes of asexual reproduction in living organisms.